Okay, good morning and welcome to Health Talk here on AM 1270, 96.5 FM, KXBX. Paul Thomas with Bill Kearney from Northlake Medical Pharmacy here in the studio. And I was telling Bill just before the show how much my wife loves to go into the store because you've got this display of a certain type of a lotion right there by the line when you're waiting for a prescription. And she says, I love going in there because there's like a little free sample, and I just put a pump on my arm, and it smells so good, I feel great the rest of the day.
I told him he needed to buy a gallon of it.
I know, right? Make for a happy home life.
Yeah. I wish it was that easy.
I know, right? Just a little bottle of lotion, a week, and she'd be happy as a clam. But
those come in different, they come in different fruit smells, and it's Burt's Bees, I think, is the name of the company, and it's really goes on easily, So a lot of lotions are meant to hydrate your skin more, and they're very hard to get into the skin. This one goes in quite easily, and it's quite a pleasant thing. So I'll even bring you some if that's
anything to help make her a happy person. Now she's happy to begin with, but yeah, she but that's the difference of going to your store and then going to like CVS or something like that. And she says, I always love going in there. The people are great. There's lots of cool things to look at and see, and I had a question. I was thinking in my mind coming in, which of your two stores is your busier store?
Well, that's hard to say because they're both very busy. We have a bigger front end at the Bruno's shopping center location, so we have more of a variety. Mm-hmm. But the other store we fill about the same amount of prescriptions. We're both quite busy with prescriptions. My daughter does a great job of merchandising in 1,800 square feet, what we put in 3,500 square feet. But when it comes to lift chairs and those kind of things, a lot of hospital supplies, although they're right across from the hospital, we have a lot more room to display that sort of thing. So we probably get a lot more referrals from physicians that are telling somebody to go pick up this or pick up that because her inventory is not as great. Of course, we have a lot more of each item on the shelf than they do. But when it comes to over-the-counter medications and those kind of things, I was just in there yesterday because I had to go see my dermatologist and get zapped, and it's right next door to my pharmacy. So I walked in and wished everybody Merry Christmas because I don't get in there very often. And they said it isn't Christmas time yet, and the store looked really, really good. And that's we've been out there since 1980.
I know, it's amazing.
So and it's quite busy.
Yeah.
So we went over some issues. I try to meet with Brandy every week, and it's been difficult since my wife's been rehabilitating with her new knee. But anyway, it's a busy store too, and there isn't any place for people to go like in our store.
Yeah,
they can walk around and she has a selection of gifts too. Steve, the manager at the Bruno's location, and Brandy have different tastes, and our customers have different tastes that go into both stores. Brandy has been able to do very well with items under $10 or $20, where ours is a little bit higher scale than that, and we have a room to have running water fountains and
Sure.
a lot of gardens things that they don't have room for. So, but we appreciate you telling us about your wife having a good experience, and in both stores we try to recognize the customer when they walk in the door and treat them as if they were family, and that's been a long time standing out at Hill Road because that was our original location, and we're doing the same out at the Bruno's location. There's many of our customers at the outside the Bruno's location don't even remember when that pharmacy was in the grocery store.
Oh, I remember. Yeah, I remember that.
It was 700 square feet. It was just a little tiny thing. But it was it was a good time for us to move because we were a limited amount of space, and Bill Bernetti had been the owner of the Bruno store, and then sold to a ShopSmart, which is a C&K Marketing out of, I think they're out of Medford.
Mm-hmm.
So it was time for us to change, and we've been there now. We opened the Bruno store in 1995, and then we opened this location in 2010. So we're already on our 6th year, going into our 7th year. So, but I'm always pleased to hear that, because that's what we're always striving for with a business, is to make it local and make it well informed. And I had to do a mission statement in updating my HIPAA regulations, and I said our mission is to serve the people of Lake County with health products, and keeping in mind that our service is customer service is a priority, as well as professional consultation. So, excuse me, we continue to try to compete against the big boys, and this was my morning to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and have my conference call. And
Wow.
Of course, on the East Coast at 5 o'clock, it's 8 o'clock there.
Yeah.
So guys are going to the airport, and guys are on their phone. And one guy in Atlanta was going through airport security, and he was the secretary. So he said, you're going to have to. I'm going to hang up for about 10 minutes and then get on the phone. But we address a lot of the issues that are going on. Our quarterly meeting was in Windsor last Sunday, and the price of medications, which everybody is talking about, is getting higher and higher. Generics appear to be going down, and brand names are going up. We get rebates from our wholesaler when our generic purchases are high, but when you're not buying as many items and the price of the brand names continue to go up, and California is one of those states that Medi-Cal requires a lot of brand name. And you may wonder why that, because brand name is more expensive. That's because the state has kickbacks coming from the drug manufacturers, and so they keep their brand name on the formulary opposed to the generic, because they get more money, we get less money. So as we get into the election process, and you see all of these propositions coming up, 61, 64 is the marijuana issue in California, 52. It's really hard to separate all those things, and it's difficult for me to separate those things. So we're going to have a show in a few weeks about what those propositions mean, and is it really something good for you. One of them said that it's bad for veterans if you vote yes on this, and another one says it's bad for patients on Medicare or Medi-Cal, and they're all backed by big money. So it's hard to go through, listen to those advertisements, and you think, well, we're going to not help out big pharmacy, which is the right thing, but is that the way the propositions are written is not exactly how they're really going to take place. So we have to pay attention to that. Today we're going to be talking about the EpiPen maker, Mylan. We're going to be talking about health screenings, statins, which we seem to always talk about, and some things about head lice, which has become a very resistant strain. And with kids going back to school now, they're trying to treat them the way they did before, and it's not working because they've developed a resistance. September 23rd, which is a Friday, from 10 in the morning until 1 in the afternoon, we're having our health screenings again. It's a finger stick method by a certified phlebotomist that comes every 3 months. You don't need an appointment. You can pay in cash or check. It's for cholesterol. It's for risk assessment, which means your total cholesterol, your HDL risk ratio. They want it to be under 4 or 4.5. Glucose, which is sugar. And if it's added to the cholesterol test, it's only a $9 charge in addition to the lipid profile, which is $38. HbA1c, which is the one that memorizes what your blood sugar is, we want it to be under 6, and it is $34, and that is a 90-day reading. So that tells your physician what your blood glucose level was, and you're not looking for something like 100 or 200, you're looking for something under 6. It's much different than a regular glucose sugar test. And also a thyroid test that you can do, which is $40, and a bone density, which is a bare heel, is $36. The prices are probably 25% compared to 100% at a certified laboratory. You get the results right then. If you have a flyer that we have at the store, it's just a little yellow, like 3x5 flyer. You get $2 off. So we encourage you September 23rd from 10 in the morning until 1 in the afternoon. And those are screenings for cholesterol, for risk assessment, for a total lipid profile, which requires fasting. So if you're going to get a total fat profile, it requires a 12-hour fasting. So after midnight, you wouldn't have anything to eat. Regular glucose for diabetes, HbA1c for diabetes, thyroid, and bone density. So all of those are going to be available at our pharmacy on Friday, on September 23rd, from 10 in the morning until 1 in the afternoon. Paul, we talked about EpiPen on the last thing, about the price had gone up to $600 cost for an epinephrine pen, which isn't new. It's been on the market for years and years. Yesterday, we got there was an article in the Wall Street Journal that said EpiPen maker Mylan dispenses outside executive pay. Their combined total of $292.1 million in pay for its top 5 executives for the 5 years ended last December outpaced that of the industry several times its size. $300 million for the top 5 executives for the last 5 years. The 22 companies that Mylan named in its 2016 proxy as its preferred peer group, much of them much larger than them. None paid their top managers more than Mylan over the same 5 years. They defended their pay practices, saying in a statement that its business is complex and highly competitive, and our effective management across our regions and portfolio has allowed us to consistently deliver strong performance for shareholders. They're concerned about the shareholders, not about you. Their stock rose over 155% over the 5-year period, less than the gains for 6 of the 10 pharmaceutical and biotech companies with the highest executive pay over that period. So they've come under fire about their EpiPen. Carries a list price of $608 for a 2-pin pack, double its price in early 2014, and up nearly 550% since 2007. Some have suggested that they raised their prices due to incentives approved by the company's board, including a long-term incentive pay that rewards the executives if they hit an ambitious growth target averaging 16% annually. EpiPen produced 23% of their operating income last year and 12% of its revenue, according to an estimate at Sanford Bernstein and Company. They make more than 85% of its revenue from generic drugs, and that's how I became familiarized with Mylan in many years ago. They were the highest quality and lowest price generics on the market. One reason that they rank so high in compensation analysis is that they paid the top 3 executives $70 million apiece over that 5-year period. So they ranked among the 20 highest paid in the drug industry over 5 years. No other company had that kind of results. Each of those executives was paid more than the chairman of Amgen Biotech Company. Amgen is more than twice Mylan's size by revenue and 6 times the market value. Their stock outperformed Mylan's 155% rise over the 5-year period by 40 percentage points. So the company didn't cite any matters last year why it totaled a $17 million to reimburse them for U.S. excise taxes they had because they moved to the Netherlands in a bid to cut corporate taxes, though now Dutch for tax purposes. Mylan's managed, though, in Canonsburg, Pennsylvania. But they pay taxes because their headquarters is in the Netherlands. So the study used annual pay as defined by regulatory rules, including salary, bonus, and the value of stock. So, excuse me, there was only one other drug maker that with more than one executive in the top 20. It paid its top 5 executives a total of $518 million. So you wonder why the market has been brand name drugs have been increased to that level, and they continue to be increased. I would say in my 3-hour conference call this morning, we spent 2 hours on drug manufacturers' increase in prices and lower prices for generics. That affects the owners of any kind of pharmacy, whether it's CVS, Walgreens, or Northlake Medical Pharmacy, 2 ways. If you get a rebate on generics for purchasing, and the price of generics continues to go down, and you get a smaller rebate from the brand name purchases, and those drugs continue to go up, and California is one of the highest because of the amount of people that they have on Medi-Cal using brand name formulators, the rebates to the pharmacies are considerably less. And we have in California, just in our co-op alone, over 100 pharmacies from here to Los Angeles and clear up to Washington and Oregon. So without a co-op such as we have, we could not exist. So I have to tell you about a little incident about one of the reasons that we continue and one of the reasons I continue to work at my age. I had a phone call yesterday. Excuse me, actually it was an email from somebody that had a patient, that knew a patient that had a daughter that was very ill with a kidney disease. And she was young, 18 years old, and they misdiagnosed her originally. And I don't know where she went to the physician. I don't know who the physician she's seen. It's not a local person. And they were offering her 2 medications. One of them was Rituxan, which is a drug that was produced and patented by Genentech many years ago for breast cancer and many other forms of cancer, and has been very effective in those. Another was a thing called Procytox, which is cyclophosphamide, which has been around many years to treat cancer also. The difficulty in using these 2 medications is they're very toxic. Anything that kills cancer cells, even as specific as you want them to get, they're still going to have an effect as far as side effects goes. Now, the side effects of these kind of medications, as many of you know who are still living today that have used those drugs to treat cancer or some other kind of immune disorder, is they can cause severe side effects, including death. And of course, the side effects are typical side effects that you can get from taking cancer-fighting drugs, which is loss of hair, nausea, cell depletion. These things attach to cancer cells and eventually kill cancer cells, but they also kill healthy cells around them if they're not targeted completely. And when you have something like a kidney that's pretty large inside our human body and it's getting contaminated with cancer cells, you're going to have to use a pretty heavy dose. And in this case, which wasn't made clear to me, but they probably are using both of those medications. And they wanted to know, excuse me, what to do. I couldn't tell them what to do. The diagnosis of the disease that this young lady had wouldn't mean anything to our audience, and it didn't mean a lot to me, although I had heard of them. The medications that we're using and that they were attempting to use meant I had a lot of information and a lot of experience with using those medications, not personally, but throughout the years of my pharmacy career. So what I explained to them was you must be able to talk to the physician candidly about what this young lady's choices are. What are the percentages of her getting better if she used these medications? How life-threatening is the disease that she's taking right now? And apply that risk versus benefit analysis on honesty of the medical staff on is the benefit worth the risk, and what would happen if I used a different medication, or what would happen if I didn't treat it at all and used radiation, and I don't know what those alternatives are. That was a difficult question for them to ask, and I told them that that's something that, and I don't know whether they were planning on using one or both of the medications, but those are things that you need to ask, and this individual needed to ask of the physicians involved, and have an opportunity to weigh the benefit against the risks. If it were my daughter, with what I know about the medications and knowing the potential for side effects, and knowing there are plenty of people alive today that have taken those medications and survived and had side effects, but they weren't life-threatening, although they can be. The side effects of the medication can be just as life-threatening as the disease. It becomes rather complex at that time, but if the percentage of continuing on without these medications or with something that's less effective is not as great of making that patient better, then I would choose for my daughter or myself something that would risk having the side effects of the medication, but a high percentage of getting rid of the disease. Remembering, I love my daughters. I don't want them to have any experience like that, but life is like throwing the dice sometimes. It makes no difference on who you are, especially with cancer and diseases like that. It makes no difference how much money you have. It just all of a sudden you're picked and you're the one that has to go through this unfortunate experience. So my answer to that patient caregiver was, and family member, was to look at all of those questions, ask the physician or the people taking care of their daughter what the risks are, what the benefits are, what are the alternatives, and it's a tough decision to make. That's why we're in the business. That's why people give us a call and ask us to help them. I have to apologize to somebody that came in yesterday. I had gone out to see my optometrist, and they came in, wasn't a patient of mine, but somebody that I know, and they wanted me to go through all their medications. And I told them I was always there, except if I was at the radio show. Well, she knew the radio show was today and came in and didn't have time to wait. So I guess it's advisable if you want, whether you come to us or not. I've made this offer, and especially at CSRS when I gave a presentation, that just call and make sure that I'm there, because I do have other engagements, and I do have a life too. So sometimes I have to pick up my wife and bring her into physical therapy, and I go to other meetings, but that's the value of what Northlake Medical Pharmacy offers you. You don't have to be a patient. You don't have to be. Of course, we wish you were. And when people come in and I look at their prescriptions and they get them from mail order, or I get them from CVS or one of my competitors, I often wonder why we weren't the pharmacy of choice. But I'm not going to say that to you. I'm going to do exactly what I said. I'm going to look at all the medications and make sure that there's no contraindications, there's no duplications. I did that a couple of months ago to a patient that was struggling with her ability to even function, and found out she was taking duplicate medications in one drug was named by the brand name, the other one was named by the generic name, different doses, taking both the doses at the same time, and at different times during the day on top of that. So that's the kind of thing we bring to the table for you. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about what the best treatment is for the super lice. Hi, my name is Bill Kearney, pharmacist and owner of Northlake Medical Pharmacies. I'm sure you've seen and heard the recent advertising from the pharmacy chains in the area telling you about a special price for their generic prescriptions. And if you've been a customer of an independent community pharmacy and you've probably wondered if you could have to change to a chain pharmacy to get a special price on your generic prescriptions, the answer to that is no. Northlake Medical Pharmacies, in conjunction with Good Neighbor Pharmacy, has their own prescription card savings plan. From an inventory of over 300 generic prescription medications, you may purchase a 30-day supply for only $4.99 and a 90-day supply for $10.99. There's a one-time charge that will be charged off your first prescription, and that is the fee to enroll you in our program. So whether you're a brand new patient, Medicare D patient, or just a cash customer that has no insurance plan, come see us at Northlake Medical Pharmacies on Hill Road next to Sutter Lakeside Hospital, or outside the Bruno's Shop Smart at 347 Lakeport Boulevard.
I wanted to be in the military since I was a kid.
I served in the United States Air Force.
I served a total of 16 years.
I was deployed 13 times.
On my second deployment, 4 bombs hit my vehicle.
And at 19 years old, that's the first time I ever saw somebody die.
Coming back, I was raging.
I started having pretty horrible nightmares.
I would wake up in the middle of the night, sweats.
I started drinking a lot.
I felt worthless.
I guess I never recognized it in myself.
Eventually, one day I just walked into the VA hospital and said I'd like to see somebody.
Don't suffer alone. You gotta find that link with somebody that'll make you let it go.
It all starts with going to the VA. There's a whole community of veterans that just want to help you out.
It's for the guys who couldn't come back, so you owe it to them to live well, because they're not here with their families.
Visit maketheconnection.net.
Hi, I'm Mia Hamm. As a professional soccer player, I know how rewarding sports can be and how quickly injuries happen. So I've teamed up with the American Association of Orthodontists to ask athletes to play it safe. With my years of training, I know what it takes to become an expert, and orthodontists do too. They're the experts who help people obtain healthy, beautiful smiles. Wear mouth guards, face masks, and helmets to prevent injuries. Keep smiling and visit braces.org.
I loved playing high school sports. I loved the competition, the camaraderie, the bands, the crowds, all the pageantry, and I wanted to keep playing. But I graduated. No colleges called, and neither did the pros. So, to stay close to the game I loved, I decided to become a high school official. You know, a referee. When I played high school sports, I learned the importance of integrity, good sportsmanship, and respect for the rules. Now as a high school official, I get to help model these same values to others. Maybe the colleges and the pros didn't call, but the kids in California did. And now, I'm enjoying the competition, the camaraderie, the bands, the crowds, and all the pageantry of high school sports all over again.
This message presented by the California Interscholastic Federation and the California State Athletic Directors Association.
All right, we're back.
All right, well, a lot of our audience may not be interested in this because they don't have kids in school, but they might have grandkids in school, and along with the annoyance that there's a stigma attached to having lice, there's definitely social ramifications that kids will be teased or viewed as being unclean. And clinicians point out head-to-head contact with a person who has lice is the main means of transmission. It's not cleanliness or not household. This is something that just every contagious pediatric person knows about as something that takes place. And though experts say it still may be worth trying these over-the-counter treatments, the first-line defense of growing prevalence is this super lice, or lice that's resistant to the over-the-counter treatments. We used to use Nix and other formulas that were used over-the-counter, and you would put it on your in your hair and leave it on there and then comb the nits out. And you can start that to begin with. If a child's lice persists, then that those OTC treatments have grown in the U.S. after beginning to emerge in the 90s, and it just is not being effective now. So the OTC things, Rid and Nix, we sold tons of that, even last year. But there's a new product called Sklice, which is ivermectin lotion. It's a newer generation treatment for lice, requires a prescription. In addition, a review of other treatments published online. People are still putting petroleum jelly or Vaseline in their hair, trying to smother the lice, mayonnaise in their hair to try to do the same thing. Olive oil, they just don't work. The therapies temporarily suppress the bugs, excuse me, their metabolic activity. And they give the impression that they're dying, but they really aren't. They only, to have them awaken a little bit after they're using them, probably overnight. The review found treatments with several topical prescriptions, products that were safe and effective with just one application. That included that Sklice, Malathion, which is under a brand name, and that came out 2 years ago, and it was quite pricey, and insurance wasn't paying for it. They appear to be paying for it now. And the one thing that the insurance companies and Medicare and Medi-Cal don't want to happen is this to spread. So the Sklice is approved by the Food and Drug Administration for children up to 6 months old and up. Natroba, which is another one, approved for kids 4 years old and up. And Malathion is approved for children 6 and up. Now, you're afraid of Malathion because you remember that being in sprays for insects that we used to spray, and it's outlawed now. But in this kind of form, it's not that toxic, and it works very well. In the face of all of this hullabaloo over lice treatment resistance, you know, it's still important to make sure the parents follow the directions for any treatment used on children and take the steps. So we have to distinguish whether it's a treatment, the actual medication that's not effective, or whether it's everything that goes into treating lice that wasn't done properly or incorrectly. And I know people are reluctant to use products to treat lice. They just won't admit that they have it. and usually the whole family needs to get treated at the same time to prevent them from being passed back and forth. We can only do so much to treat the child, but if they get reinfested from somebody else, it's hard to get that child clear. So for the most part, the main side effect from the over-the-counter and prescription treatments is skin irritation. You know, all these things that you put on your skin, and including your scalp, are kind of an irritant. So they don't feel good when you put them on. And I can imagine, not having any hair, but I could imagine coating my head with Vaseline to smother out. You've got quite a head of hair, Paul. I can imagine you coming in with Vaseline all over your head. But you have kids that go to school too,
Sure,
and just using a comb, using a cap or a hat, those lice can transfer to that very easily. So the good part is that those over-the-counter products are available. Your child may not be resistant to those. They may not be super lice yet to them. They should try that. If you see the doctor and he or she has been diagnosed with having the lice, they may write you a prescription immediately. If the insurance doesn't pay for it, one of those 3 or 4 items we should be able to get paid for by insurance by getting a prior authorization. The disadvantage of that is that the prior authorization sometimes takes a little bit of time in order to do. So be aware that that's out there, and you know about it now. So when your child comes home or your grandchild comes home and has been diagnosed with lice, you know that there are options. I saw an article in the Press Democrat on Sunday, and I didn't read it at first, and then I went back and I pulled the paper. And the article was Rethinking Hormone Use to Ease Menopause Patients. And what the article was about was the Women's Health Initiative that was in 1994, where they started taking women's information along with, it's when the Dietary Substance Act came out also, and getting feedback on medications that females were taking instead of lumping everything into the male population. And one of the things that they were concerned about was the effect of estrogens on females going through menopause. When the study was completed, and they had suggested this for people in case they were having cardiac difficulties, and thought that the estrogens would help the disease state of cardiac difficulties and help them have a better outcome. The problem is they were using women that were 60 years old. They had been through menopause already. They were still getting side effects from not taking the estrogens, and the estrogens helped considerably, having hot flashes and sweats and the kind of things, and nausea and esophageal reflux and those kind of things. So they told everybody to stop using estrogens for, and the big reason they were using them was for side effects from menopause, and also they thought that it increased bone density, which it did. So that study had nothing to do with menopausal symptoms. So most of the 28,000 women entering the study were in their 60s and 70s and already had 10 years or more past menopause. So it was designed to determine whether the hormone replacement therapy in fact did reduce the risk of heart disease, which was the top killer of women. And in the years afterwards, many news analysis and studies have prompted them to rethink the wisdom of avoiding hormone replacement therapy, especially for women. And now they're thinking that they should go back and rethink that. I had a patient in the other day that was experiencing those kind of symptoms and wanted to go back on estrogen therapy, and I said, you know, they're doing that now. They're starting to do it. They're starting with lower doses. When everybody was on 0.3 or 1.25, 0.625. They're going to lower doses now. There was a Danish study that randomized controlled trials of over 1,000 women entering menopause, and among those given hormones for 10 years. There was a reduction in the cardiovascular disease, is what they were looking for, and breast cancer, a clear benefit with a nominal risk. So those benefits persisted after 16 years to follow up the study, which was published in 2012. So, and one of the things we're doing, and this article was not favorable about us doing that, is we're compounding estrogen and estriol and estradiol creams to help females through this, and it's been very effective. This article was not favorable of that because they wanted a consistency, and when you're compounding a product and it's going on as a topical cream, the amount of absorption that you're going to get through a cream isn't even intravaginally is not as good, even though it goes into the mucous membrane, as it would be if you were injecting it or taking it orally. We have been very successful in compounding those products, and the evidence of that is the fact that they're getting these refilled on a routine basis, so we know it's effective. But that doesn't take away the purpose of the article was that we abandoned estrogen use way too soon because we tested it in the wrong element. We tested it on women that were already 10 years past menopause. The cardiovascular benefit wasn't as great because many of them were already had cardiovascular disease, and we need to look at things and change some things, and that's exactly what medicine is all about. They call it practicing medicine, and it takes a long time to get the positive and the negative results, and someone who already has a patent on a medication and has already been has already paid for the expertise and the clinical data, and now go back and go through a lot more expense to take more studies, and that's why more of these studies are done outside of the country than in the United States, because it's so costly to do here. So just a point of information. So if you're one of those ladies who had been on estrogen therapy and you don't feel the same without it, there is new evidence to tell you that at a lower dose estrogen you can probably achieve those same results and have a benefit of cardiovascular benefits as well as suppressing those side effects from taking the medication. There wouldn't be a radio show without talking about statins. And there's been a lot of evidence reported about side effects of taking anti-cholesterol statins. And remember me saying almost every show it's risk versus benefit. Well, much of the evidence of the statins, the benefits far outnumbered the side effects in a scientific review that was published last Friday, blaming poor research on scaring people and putting lives at risk. Now, this don't misunderstand me, this doesn't mean there aren't risks. Most of you don't get side effects from it. Some people do. Much of the bad rap came from trials whose very design did not allow them to draw any conclusions, and they were seeking to help doctors and patients and the public make informed decisions. Their own analysis, the team wrote on Friday, that statins prevented many more heart attacks and strokes than they caused muscle problems or diabetes. They have had an underestimation of the benefits and massive overestimation of the harm that they have caused. So there's a serious cost to the public health from making misleading claims about high side effect rates that inappropriately dissuade people from taking the therapy. So these been used for about 30 years to bring down that LDL cholesterol, which has been linked to a risk for heart and artery disease. The statins have been prescribed for secondary prevention for people already suffering cardiovascular disease, but increasingly also as a primary prevention. You're finding more and more evidence that they're putting people on statins at an earlier age. They're increasing the dose. The standard of practice now, when somebody's had a cardiovascular event, is put them on 80 milligram immediately, and eventually they can taper them back. We had very few people 10 years ago that were on 80 milligram. The conflicting reports of the benefits and harm, the new review that using statins to lower cholesterol would prevent major cardiovascular events in 1,000 out of 10,000 users over 5 years is accurate. The people who take it for primary prevention, meaning those people who don't really have a problem right now, 500 out of 10,000 would avoid a major cardiac event, such as a heart attack or a stroke. On the downside, about 10,000, 5 in 10,000 would develop myopathy. And you wonder what myopathy is? Myopathy is a muscle condition where you felt like you've been ran over by a truck. And and I caution everybody that I dispense statins to that this could be a side effect. Many times you can change from one statin to the other and get rid of that. But and many times you'll go into a physician and he said, you're just old, but many times that's caused by a statin. Now 5 out of 10,000, or was it 50 out of 10,000? And it's still quite low, but the good thing is, it's 5 in 10,000. The good thing is that once you get off the statin or change to a different statin, there's a good chance that will disappear. It's reversible. There also is 5 to 10 would have a hemorrhagic stroke out of the 10,000, which causes bleeding on the brain. 50 to 100 could develop diabetes. The other type of stroke, the one that's caused by blood clots, was vastly reduced by the statins. This is the only type of trial the author said which can ascribe to an effect to a drug being tested. So much of the evidence for statin risks come from observational studies, not double-blind studies. They're not designed to show a cause and effect. I have a friend that's a very good friend, and he's very, very informed. And when statins first came out, he said, that's the worst drug that ever hit the market. It's going to cause memory loss. It's going to put people completely out of touch. They're going to put themselves at risk. The daily 40 milligram statin dose, which is anywhere from 10 to 40, is in Britain costs $2.70, whereas some 2 million people are prescribed statins for secondary prevention and 4 million for primary. That meant some 80,000 people in Britain alone will be spared a major cardiovascular event. They've been unfairly demonized, and even my friend knows that they can cause side effects, but the chance of developing those is low, while the amount of people that we keep out of the emergency room and keep out of the hospital and keep them from dying is huge. And so, again, this is your life. This is something that you have to decide. We always have that option of diet and exercise. Whenever we have a high lipid value or a high sugar value, we know that that diet and exercise is our first choice. Many people, esophageal reflux, we'd rather take a PPI. For diabetes, we'd rather take a medication or insulin. For high lipid, high cholesterol, we'd rather take a statin than do diet and exercise. I would always suggest diet and exercise before anything else. I don't happen to take any high cholesterol medication, but I do exercise. I swim an hour every day. Most people my age, and I don't eat the best foods possible, but I try to, and I'm sure that has something to do with it. So we all have options. You don't always, medication isn't always the option. And I'm always, believe it or not, I'm always for a patient trying, I don't take pain medication. Do I hurt every day? Sure do. But I take an anti-inflammatory and I can endure the pain most of the time. There are times when it gets unbearable when I travel as much as I do. But I have a choice. I could take pain medication. One of the things that happened the other day, I was talking to a customer that was in a wheelchair, non-ambulatory. He had been in a lot of pain. He was on opiates for a long period of time. He tried to get off of them and he couldn't. We were making up a compound that was very successful at treating the pain. Did it kill all the pain? Absolutely not. What that individual found out was, as he was going through withdrawal, that the medication was actually causing him to feel worse, the opiate. And as he continued to get off the opiate and taking non-opiate medication, he felt better than he'd ever felt. And that's the standard reason that we're reducing the opiate use all over the country, because there's such a problem with it. So I want to remind everybody that we are probably going to be getting the flu shots the end of next week. We will be advertising it, and we will be giving it just as soon as we get it. You don't need an appointment. If you have Partnership Health, Medi-Cal, Medicare, almost any insurance now is paying for the flu vaccine. We give the trivalent one, the one we've given before. It's been very successful. We are not giving the flu mist, as the Food and Drug Administration came out last week and said it's absolutely ineffective. We're not going to be using it this year, so your little guy that, like Paul had, that I gave a shot to years ago, and he hated me for a couple of years. They're going to have a needle. So we'll put in some extra candy, and I have to give it to Paul, of course. But yeah, I have to remind you that we're North Lake Medical Pharmacy with 2 locations at 5136 Hill Road East across from Sutter Lakeside Hospital. Call us there at 263-6192, and outside the Bruno Shop Smart at 347 Lakeport Boulevard. Give us a call there at 263-1328. Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Bill. We'll see everybody back here again next Wednesday at 10 a.m. for Health Talk on AM 1270 and 96.5 FM, KXBX Lakeport.